Hello there. Oh, it's really dark on on what is this, on Facebook Live. Oh well, I'll see. Maybe I don't know. It took me a minute to get on because I was dealing with some camera issues. So on Facebook Live, it is a little dark. My apologies for that. I will mess with it only to a certain extent, and then I'm back off. Um, Anyway, happy Sunday, everyone. Hello. Welcome to another broadcast from My Sweet Pea and Me. My name is Serene. I'm so happy to be with you today. Um, Today, I actually just came from, like literally about an hour ago, I just came from seeing a play with my son. I took my, hey, thanks for joining. I took our youngest son to a show, and so it was nice. We had like our little date out together or whatever. He tried to kind of be in his phone all the whole time, but you know, is it on Facebook? Does it look really dark? Let me know if it's like too dark. I don't know why I can't figure out the lighting, but whatever, it is what it is. So just came from a little date with my youngest son. I like to call him my little middle man. So he's our middle child, and it was nice. It's nice. I think, yeah, it is a little dark, right? I don't know. I don't really know but okay. Um, but you can still see me, right? Let me know. This is what happened when you're like it wasn't dark. Like I was setting it up all before I had to broadcast, and it wasn't dark, and then I went to touch something at the last minute and I messed it all up, right? That's okay, but you can see me. That's the point. So, yeah. So I just came from my date with my outing with my little one, my middle guy, and it was fun. So, either way, it goes kind of in line with this customized parenting broadcast because if you saw the show from last week, I was talking about like doing certain things for your individual child based off of the things that they are into. And so he's into shows. He's been like in a little, production for school here and there, and he's done a couple of performances here and there, and so he's into shows. And so the opportunity came for me to get tickets to this play, to see the production Oliver. The old show, Please Sir, Can I Have Some More, like that show. And so we went to see it, and he liked it. I liked it. It was really cute. It was nice. So let's get into today's broadcast. I touched the screen, nothing happened. But today's broadcast is customized parenting. This is part 2 of 3. Why? Because we have 3 children at home. We being my husband and myself, we have 3 children at home, ages 14, 11, and 3. And so I had to do 3 parts of this broadcast. Last week I talked about my middle son, who is 11, and today I am talking about my 14-year-old. Yes, that teen life I am living. We are in it, 14 years old. And so it's interesting. And then we have a 3-year-old little girl. So we'll talk about her next week, next week's broadcast. So, getting into it, customized parenting. What is it? Just to recap. So in the classroom, we do a thing called differentiated teaching. And so customized parenting is all pretty much the same. I don't know if I coined the phrase. I never looked it up to see if anyone else calls it that. I'm not taking credit for it, but I call it that, right? And so customized parenting means recognizing who your child is and doing things based on who that child is so that that child can get the best, that you're giving them your best, based off of who they are. And some of the steps, so like what are the steps in being able to customize your parenting? So from my perspective, observation is first, right? Because you can't customize anything if you don't know what you're customizing it for, right? You don't know what you're trying to make it to fit for, right? So observation, you gotta observe, right? Sometimes I feel like as parents, we know that this is my child I had him or I had her, and this is what I want for my child, so this is what I'm going to do, right? These are the steps that I'm going to take. I'm going to put them in this school. I'm going to expose them to this. I'm going to put them in this kind of class. I'm going to, this is what I'm going to do, right? Sometimes we have that made up in our mind when they're like in utero. I know that I did too. Like, I'm not by any means am I excluding myself from being that person too. But, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because there's nothing wrong with exposure. There's nothing wrong with saying, this is what I want you to do. This is what I aspire for you to do. And so then I'm going to put you in those situations so that you can be exposed to those things, right? The only thing about that is that too much of it means you're not observing and listening to what your child is saying that they're into, right? Or what they're saying they like, or what they're saying they would like to gravitate towards. Or what their natural abilities are, right? So sometimes parents throw their children in things like dance, and their child naturally just has 2 left feet. Like, so what are we doing right now? Like, I know you want your child to, play golf, or but the fact that you don't live near any golf courses, nor do you know where one is, like, it doesn't make sense to me. I know somebody who said that this is what they want their child to do, and it was like, you've never even walked on a golf course. Like, what are you doing right now? But like and this is before you know what the child is even into. Like, let's observe for a little bit. Then acknowledgement, right? Acknowledgement. So you've observed, oh, it got lighter for some reason on Facebook. All right. So you acknowledge it, right? So now I see who you are. I see what you're into. I see what you like. I accept that. I acknowledge it. And I specifically say actually acknowledgement as opposed to accepting it, because, and there's a difference. Acknowledgement is just recognizing what it is, whereas acceptance is saying this is what it is, and so it is what it is, and nothing can be done about it, nothing can be changed about it. I accept this. There's a difference, right? Because there are some children who are naturally or seemingly naturally rebellious. No, I don't accept that. I acknowledge it, meaning that I recognize that you are going to be a challenge as my child, because you like to challenge, right? So a child who is diagnosed with like something like oppositional defiant disorder, or better known as ODD, they tend to be a little bit more, or a lot more, depending on the situation, depending on the scale of it, more defiant. I acknowledge it, right? I don't accept it in the sense that this is how it's going to always be, and I'm not going to do anything about it, or I'm not going to work with you to try to get us in a better place, but I do acknowledge it, right? So acknowledgement. And then education, which is key, right? So you observe it, you acknowledge it, and then you educate yourself based off of what you've observed and have acknowledged. Education is key. Why? Because especially if you're a parent of multiples, like we are, or of multiple children, they all are very different from one another. And to sit here and say that I was equipped to deal with, or we were equipped to deal with 3 different types of personalities would be a lie. No matter how many years I've been in the classroom, I've not seen it all. And it's very different when they're your own also. So learning more or educating yourself about this personality type, or this interest that your child has shown in, this thing that your child has shown interest in, you educate yourself on it now. So now my child decides that this is what he or she is into, and I don't know much about it. So now I am going to figure out or learn more or expose myself to more as a parent to know what the next steps are going to have to be in order for me to give my child what they're showing interest in, right? Or what they're showing a natural ability to be able to do. And so why is all of this important? Why is it important to customize your parenting, right? So I talked about how or some of the steps to doing it. But why is it important? Well, first of all, it can save a lot of argument, a lot of arguing. I think that especially as you have your 14, a teenager, right? Which I'll get into how my husband and I, work on customizing what we do for him. Um, when you have a teenager, there's going to be a lot of back and forth anyway, or a tendency for the teenager to want to have a rebuttal for a lot of things. So you're going to have a lot of arguing, or not arguing, but a lot of back and forth sometimes, depending on how much you allow. If you're that parent who's like, oh, I don't do the back and forth with my child, then your child is probably saying things not in front of your face, but things about you. And so even to avoid that as best as possible. And I think that you avoid a lot of that because there's not so much tension with them trying to voice, this is who I am, this is what I like, this is what I want. And you're like, no, I don't accept that. No, I don't accept that. No, I don't accept that. Well, there's going to be a lot of issues if everything that they're throwing at you about who they are, you're slapping down because you're like, nah, I don't accept that. Or I don't acknowledge that. No. Everyone wants to be accepted, right? So there were people right now in adulthood who are still crying out to be accepted for who they are, right? So it's no different for your child. Children, they're people. And so if they're saying this is who I am, and everything is being knocked as if, so like you have a shy child and you're pushing them to be in the limelight, but they're shy, you are not hearing this child out about who they're saying they are. I like to be on the back. I like to be behind the scenes. I don't like to be in the limelight. But you're like, no, because you're trying to live vicariously through your child, or you're trying to push them to where you want them to be. Go ahead, show them your dance, do your thing. No, I don't have a thing. That's not what I want to do. I want to kind of be in the cut. I want to be in the back. Like, leave me alone. So everyone wants to be accepted for who they are, and it should start really young. It could save a lot of hardships and a lot of therapy, probably, right? I think it could save a lot of therapy for when you get older. Nothing wrong with therapy at all. Definitely healthy, or it could be very healthy, but I think being accepted at a younger age really helps. And then the sooner you know things about your child, the sooner you can start learning some new things by yourself. The sooner you can get out there and start doing that research and having those conversations with other people. Hey, you got a child like that? My child is similar to that. Let me, what are you doing with your child? And give yourself some tips or get some tips and pointers, right? So just to briefly get into my teen, because that's who I said I was going to talk about for this one. He is 14. He is in 10th grade. He's doing really wonderfully. I actually, my husband and I don't think he can complain. He's on Facebook Live, and I don't think that we can complain about the child that he is. He's an honor roll student. He plays basketball. It's like 7 days a week, no lie. Starting at like 6:30 in the morning on the weekends, and ending his day sometimes at like 9:30 at night. And he's doing it. He's doing it. And he wasn't always doing it. It took a lot of trial and error on our part, but he's doing it now, and that's what matters. And so, as it relates to customized parenting, so he was a hard one because he was our first. And so what that means is that I did have goals for him before he could even walk. This is what he's going to do. He is going, like in my mind, this is what I was telling myself. He is going to be a scholar. Once he started talking, I was like, oh my gosh, he's a lawyer. He's going to be a lawyer. And I started trying to find programs for children who want to be on a debate team and things, just like, okay, because he had a gift of gab, basically. He could talk and he can negotiate. And so I was like, that's a lawyer. Yeah, get you on a debate team. Do all these things. And I would throw him in these things, and he'd come home and be like, pull me out, please. This is not my scene. And I was like, you don't got no say in that. Like, you doing this. And he'd be miserable for a moment, you know? Until I was like, all right, let's just give it up then. All right, we're done. And so it took a while with him for me to recognize that this is who he was or who he is, and let him kind of carve his own path. And because of that, we butted heads. We butted heads a lot. And it wasn't until probably 7th/8th grade that I was like, all right, who are you? You know? And I didn't like outright say that to him, but I just did my first step, which is observing. And I realized that he's a smart kid, but even more than that, he's a kid who likes to try things on his own, and even if they fail, he'll figure out another way to do it so that he doesn't fail. He doesn't like a lot of help. He doesn't like a lot of insight from people about how to do certain things, because he really likes to, figure it out on his own. He feels like if he gets help, that he won't be able to take the credit for the things that he accomplishes, which everyone needs help, and I'm constantly sharing that with him. I feel like we're constantly telling him that we are given one another so that we can help one another. But I think that that's going to be a lesson that I'm going to be teaching him, or my husband and I are going to be teaching him probably for all his life, because that is so embedded in him that he just wants the credit for his accomplishments for himself. And so then that becomes dangerous, because then you're talking about pride and all of that stuff. And those are things that we recognize and we acknowledge. And just like I said before, just because we acknowledge it doesn't mean we accept it. Being a proud person and being full of pride and being very prideful is actually problematic, right? Being proud of your accomplishments is beautiful, it's wonderful. Being full of pride and full of ego is never a good thing. It's not going to end nicely. So that's something we're constantly working on with him. It's a part of our customizing what this child needs. He needs sometimes some reality checks to say, you didn't get here on your own. Please take a step back, acknowledge the help that you've received. That way you can feel more comfortable asking for it, because there's nothing wrong with it. So that's something that we're constantly going through with him. But it took a while to figure that out. It took a while for me to step back and really let him be who he is. He's in 10th grade. He has 2.5 years now before he heads out to college. And college is coming out of his vocabulary. Like, that's coming out of his, what he wants to do. Excuse me. He's like I said before, he's heavy into basketball. He's very college mindset, college bound. And what I'm noticing about him as part of like customizing his parenting, or parenting for him, is that just like a lot of teens actually, they think they know certain things, but they don't. But they know a lot more than we give them credit for. So for our son, he's knowledgeable about a lot of things. And so I've learned to not tell him so many things that are redundant, right? So that he doesn't have to go, I know. Because sometimes he actually does know. And if as a parent, if you take the time to observe what they know, then you'll save yourself some of the redundant, repetitive crap. You know what I mean? Like, telling him, oh, you got to do your laundry tonight, when he knows he needs clothing. Save your breath. You know what I mean? He knows that he needs clothes clean. And so by me saving my breath, and he goes to do the laundry that he has to do for himself, then we're good. Like, I didn't need to say it and he didn't need to hear it. And so, it took a while for us to get there, like I said. But then the other things that he doesn't know, like how to cook, which is interesting because my husband's a chef. And so my husband's a chef, and shout out to Brick House Pantry. My husband's a chef, and we've been cooking, or he's been cooking, and I know I've done some cooking. I don't like it, but I've done some cooking around him, and we've shown him how to do things. He's not interested, but he wants to go away to college. He wants to go away to college, and I'm like, listen, if you don't learn how to do some cooking, you might gain the whole freshman 15, 20 pounds that they talk about freshmen do from having to eat out all the time. So I recognize that at this stage, it's really important for him to learn those self-help skills that, I mean, like he does his laundry, then no problem with that. He'll even do some of his own shopping and grab food, but then he just doesn't like to cook. He got it from me, I know. He doesn't like to do that. And so because he doesn't, he expects everything to be done for him like that. But I recognize with customizing our parenting for him right now, it's about allowing him to figure it out. So when he asks us things, so allowing him to figure it out without knocking his confidence about the fact that he doesn't know that or know how to do that. I think with teens, there becomes a tendency for parents to just be like, you should just know how to do this. And then there's that like bashing of, I expect this from you and I expect that you should know this. And so then you start ragging on them because they don't know certain things. Like that kind of thing takes away their confidence, or it diminishes their confidence really quickly. And it also diminishes their willingness to ask for help to learn how to do it. And so I can't afford that. You know what I mean? He's going to be leaving for college very soon, and I can't afford for him to have not asked questions just because we made his confidence feel low because he didn't know how to do it. So when he asked us how to boil water to make instant oatmeal, like behind closed doors, inside I laugh. No, outside I laugh, but behind closed doors. And then I open the door and I go, all right, so you're going to just boil this water, and then you're going to open the pack, and then you're going to dump the pack into the bowl, and then you're going to pour some water into the bowl. Not too much, don't make it soupy. Not too little, don't make it lumpy and dry unless you like that life. And then he does it, you know what I mean? And then I go back in the room and then I laugh again, right? Because I'm just like, what? But in customizing parenting for him, his confidence is more important than my being shocked that he doesn't know how to make oatmeal. And then I have to reflect on myself, because I'm just like, I know I taught you that though. Like I know that I didn't fail at that. It's just him, right? And so on and so forth. So like eggs, he'll stand there, he'll ask his 11-year-old brother, how you hook this up? Now his brother will rag on him, and I can't really stop that. His brother will be like, what's wrong with you? So he'll get his fill from his brother, but parenting, right? It has to come from us in a certain way, because we have to do what he needs. You know, and so basically right now for him, like I said, it's about his confidence. It's about helping him to become more independent, and helping him to become more independent. It is letting him go out there and do things on his own a little bit. Some people say giving him a lot of rope to hang himself, which I've heard people say that, like, you're giving him too much rope, he's gonna hang himself. No, if you're being observant, you'll know right when to pull the rope. You'll know right when to tug on it. You'll know right when you're giving him too much rope and it's tightening around his neck to literally to hang himself. That comes if you're being observant. If you're not being observant and you're given that freedom because you're like, he's gonna be in college soon, or he's a teen or whatever, and then you're not standing by and watching, yeah, you might miss it when he hangs himself. And so got to be observant. I think that the observation never stops, and that's how that goes. Um, but those are the key things right now with my 14-year-old, with our 14-year-old that we're doing. And I think that the feedback that we're hearing from his teachers right now, when I went to parent teachers conference, yes, at 14 years old and throughout all the years of high school, we will be all up and through his parent teachers conferences. That's very important because it allows us to see how what we're working on at home is manifesting itself when he's out there. And so for those parents who don't feel like it's important by the time your child is in high school to go to parent teachers conference, think again about that, because them being in high school, it's a depiction of how they're going to govern themselves in the world. And if your child is cutting up in school, they're going to probably cut up in the world. And so what we're hearing right now is he is very self-aware. These are his teachers. He's self-aware. He's very self-motivated. He's extremely determined. One teacher goes, I wish I could clone him. His awareness of self is so strong, and his ability to keep himself on track and to self-assess and to recognize this is what he needs and then to do what he needs. His teachers have said that he's come in there and told them, listen, I don't have this or I don't have that. Can you give this to me? Can you print this for me? Can you send me this in an email? Like, he has that awareness. And yes, I will say, for me and Dad, definitely pat on the back for us. And I'll also say a big pat on the back to him because he's been given the space to do that and he's used it wisely. He was given rope and he learned how to jump with it. I don't know what's not hang yourself with it, but he learned how to make it work with the rope he was given. That's what it means. And so that's about it. That is our 14-year-old, and that is how we customize the parenting for him. Please stay tuned. Next week is part 3 of customized parenting, where I will talk about the little one. So that's the age that I went to school for. So I should be doing this like flawlessly. No, it's not the case. Please, not at all. But it's about the little one, and she is 3. So please stay tuned. And if you have any questions or you want to chat about something parenting wise, or education wise, teacher wise, please feel free to hit me up, earlychildhood@sweetpeame.com. That's earlychildhood@sweetpeame.com. And yeah, stay tuned. I'll talk to you later. Bye.